I'm back again. It is the 2nd of March 2016 and yesterday I saw my specialist doctor in neurology in what is sort of a pain management clinic, and yeah, it was in hopes of having my 3rd round of Botox on the NHS, but that wasn't meant to be, because to have Botox in the NHS you have to have a 30% reduction in total headache days, including migraine. So 30% reduction total, and I had a 0% reduction because whilst the intensity had reduced considerably over the past 2 months of me having Botox, the actual percentage of headache days hadn't. So that meant I no longer qualified under the guidelines for NICE, the National Institute for Clinical Excellence, because it's too expensive a treatment plan for someone with my improvement to continue on the NHS. But it's not all bad news, because instead I had a greater occipital nerve block. Basically, the greater occipital nerve runs up the back of your head, and it's one of the main pain pathways. And the intention of the greater occipital nerve block is to basically interrupt these pain pathways, which in someone with my conditions have become completely oversensitised, to interrupt them, to therefore make it react in a more normal way than being sensitive to every little movement. So instead of Botox, I had this nerve block done, and I feel pretty good, which is great. In fact, when I had the treatment done, there was the sharp pain of the needle going into the back of my head, and then the moment the injection went in, I felt blessed relief. I went in yesterday with a full-blown migraine. I felt terrible. I journeyed to my appointment thinking it's the worst time to be journeying to my appointment, but the best day probably to go, because it's seeing me at my worst. And to have that immediate relief was just absolutely amazing, and I'd never felt anything like it. And my doctor actually said that made me an incredibly easy patient. But what was injected into me was a mixture of steroid, short-acting local anaesthetic, and long-acting local anaesthetic. The steroid injection comes in every 6 months, and the anaesthetics you have every 2 months. So the pattern would be is you have the steroid plus the anaesthetics, 2 months later just anaesthetic, 2 months again just anaesthetic, and then once it's been 6 months you have the steroid and the anaesthetic again. And the idea is just to control the pain in a slightly different way by channeling it into these nerve pain pathways and interrupting them, as I've said. And yeah, to have the migraine pain completely changed in seconds is unbelievable, and I couldn't be happier on that front. But all plus sides have a negative, and the injection all went into one spot in the back of my head, approximately there, if you can see, and then the drugs were massaged in, and I could hear it slightly crackling because the steroid is slightly crystallised, whereas the anaesthetic's a solution, so that crackled. And that's all fine, well and good, but I do kind of feel like I've been hit in the back of the head by a baseball flying at however fast a baseball goes when a professional hits it, or a cricket ball, or just whatever, that size ball. And that means it's probably very bruised, but it's not surprising considering how much fluid went into one spot. But the pain of the bruising has already subsided in the 24 hours since the injection, which is also great. The shooting head pain I get approximately there, whenever that's happening, that's also lessened in intensity. When it's happening, it's still happening. This nerve block is not a miracle cure by any stretch of the imagination, but it does make it a lot more bearable, which means hopefully I'll be able to start living my life a bit more again. And it will hopefully mean that I can get on with sorting out my next book, which has been long overdue. But because of the amount of pain I was in, and because I wasn't getting any significant reduction in pain like I did with the nerve block yesterday on the Botox, it meant I was struggling to be able to work. But hopefully this means I will be able to at least do my book, even though I will imagine I'll still have some pain, just not as much as I was having. But yes, I'm happy with what's happened, and I'm happy with how I'm feeling. Sometimes when I move my neck a bit at the moment, it does suddenly hurt because everything feels tense where the injection was, and just down that pathway through the neck, and it feels really swollen just there on the back of my head. But this is all short-term side effects, and hopefully very soon that will have all gone down. Hopefully by this time next week it won't be making any difference whatsoever, but because the pain will have gone and I'll be able to get on with things as usual. But now my next treatment in terms of that clinic is in 2 months' time, and that will be the solution of local anaesthetics, short and long acting again, to tide me over for another 2 months. And then my next appointment, however, is tomorrow, and that is with my consultant neurologist, Dr. Brown, and I am looking forward to seeing him to give him the update on what's happened and to just see where we go next with trying to find out maybe what is actually wrong with me, or, you know, what condition I have, because saying what's wrong with me makes it sound like I'm not how I should be, and that's a horrible way to think of things. But yeah, just researching what condition I have, more just to have that answer to cling on to than anything else. But that is all a video for probably Friday, because this one is about yesterday's clinic. And yeah, so that's that for today. I hope if you're watching it you're having a pain-free day. I hope if you have chronic pain in any sense of the word that you have multiple spoons to get through the day, and someday I will cover the spoon theory and the amazing young woman who came up with it, because it is an amazing explanation for invisible illnesses, and one that people can sort of understand a bit better. But as with any theory, there are flaws. But anyway, this is all by the by for the future. I hope you're having a good day, and I will see you soon.